Okay, it seems there's a bunch of retarded fucks on YouTube that still want to whine and cry about this situation, even though new evidence has surfaced. In fact, I call it the revelation. And by the end of this video, I'm going to do some major debunking here. And I'm like, fuck it. If these retarded fucks wants to die on their hill up their victimhood complex, I say bring them their tombstones. Because Nate the lawyer right here has seen the exact same footage I seen other people seeing, and we all coming to the same conclusion. No matter how much they cry, bitch, and complain, the truth is the truth. And as I also stated, facts over feelings. Get out your feelings and look at the facts being brought to the table. And speaking of which, shout out to Nate the lawyer. I'll leave the link to his full video in the comment section. Go check it out. But since you want to cry, bitch, and complain, we are gonna go through the full footage. And this is I'm gonna tell you this straight up. This is why I don't listen to these biased media outlets, because they will only give you one side of the story while disregarding all the other sides that are now being shown. But enough of me talking. Let's get down to this with this, shall we?
Right, I'm Nate the lawyer, and in this video, we're going to look at the Minnesota shooting, and you are going to decide if this was murder or if this was a justified shooting. We're going to look at the camera footage, we're going to look at the law, and we're going to look at the spin from both sides, and I'm just going to leave it to you to determine if this was justified or not. So first, we need to know what happened. Here is the police chief in Minnesota explaining exactly what happened at the time of the shooting.
My name is Brian O'Hara, BRIANO''HARA. I am the Minneapolis police chief. The preliminary information that we have indicates that this woman was in her vehicle and was blocking the roadway on Portland Avenue, midway.
Which confirms exactly what I said. Why was she blocking the street? The street. Which is also breaking the law. You're not supposed to block a public street, regardless of what your reason is.
Between 33rd Street and 34th Street in the city. At some point, a federal law enforcement officer approached her on foot, and the vehicle began to drive off. At least 2 shots were fired. The vehicle then crashed on the side of the roadway.
So the next question is obviously, what was she doing and why was she blocking the street? Here's what the chief said.
So the question was, what can I share about the deceased? There is nothing to indicate that this woman was the target of any law enforcement investigation or activity. This woman was in her car, and it appears then blocking the street because of the presence of federal law enforcement, which is obviously something that has been happening not just in Minneapolis, but around the country.
All right, so now we know why she was there, to prevent ICE from arresting people who made it here illegally. So she was preventing their law enforcement activity. She was using her car to block their path, and something horrible happened. So first, as always, we'll start with...
In which I need to go ahead and let everybody know about this. Because apparently you got a lot of people who don't know what is happening now. And for those y'all who don't know, ICE agents now has complete authority to arrest anybody who interferes or and or causes obstruction. Meaning, if you interfere in their job, you can and will be arrested. As y'all about to see, they was trying to arrest Renee Nicole Goode for interfering and obstruction. But let's continue.
The law. So you know what you're looking for when you see the evidence. And then we'll look at the evidence and you are going to apply the law to the evidence so you can come to your conclusion at the end. So without any further ado, here's the law. There are two cases that we have to consider. Tennessee v. Gardner from 1985 and Graham v. Connor from 1989. These two cases direct how officers are going to be judged if they use deadly physical force against the subject. So we're going to start with the case Tennessee v. Gardner.
And yes, Nate the lawyer is an actual lawyer, not some retarded fuck on YouTube who think they know everything and clearly don't know shit off the gate. This Nate is a legit lawyer who knows his way around the law and the courts. Let's continue.
Now, in that particular case, police shot a fleeing felon in the back. They witnessed the person committing a felony. The person started running away, and they shot and killed the person. And in Tennessee, it was legal to shoot fleeing felons in the back. But the Supreme Court said, no, that's actually not constitutional. And the Supreme Court said, unless the person is a serious threat to the officer or other members in the community, then you can't just shoot them in the back or essentially commit executions on the street because the person's running away from you. And as you can see from the Justice Department's own website, it's called the fleeing felon rule. Next, we move to the case of Graham v. Connor in
Now keep that law in mind. Because everything's going to be revealed in the end.
1989. Now, in that case, if police are using force, that force is going to be judged by what the court says is known as the objectively reasonable standard. The objectively reasonable standard is an objective standard used to judge an officer's actions. Under this standard, a particular application of force must be judged through the perspective of a reasonable officer facing the same set of circumstances without the benefit of 20/20 hindsight and be based upon the totality of the facts that are known to that officer at the time the force was used. Now, under the objectively reasonable test for Graham v. Connor, the court gives us three factors that we should consider. Now, these aren't exclusive. There are many, many other factors that you can consider, but these are three the court points to in the case. One, the nature of the 911 call. Bank robbery, more likely you're going to use force versus cat stuck in a tree. Then you have whether the suspect is resisting arrest. More likely that you're going to be using force. And then last but not least, this is from Tennessee v. Gardner. Remember, if the suspect is a serious threat to other officers or members of the community, then it would be objectively reasonable to use force to stop that threat. So now you know the law, and you're going to apply the law to the facts of this particular case. So let's look at the facts.
In this footage taken by a bystander just before the shooting, we can see Goode's maroon SUV partially blocking the street. Goode's partner, Senior, outside the car, and ICE officer Jonathan Ross are filming each other. You can see Goode in the
Now ICE agents have to use cameras to film because they don't have body cameras. But let's continue.
driver's seat, waving cars by while Ross begins walking around her SUV. Two more federal officers arrive in the spray truck and approach Goode's vehicle while simultaneously speaking to her.
Now pay close attention to the maroon SUV and where it's positioned, because that's going to play a key role. But let's continue.
So, law enforcement officers with lights and sirens and in full uniform are ordering a motorist who's blocking traffic to get out of their vehicle.
The whole encounter, from the moment an officer told Goode to get out of her car.
Now, did everybody see that? First, the SUV was blocking the street, but notice that Renee Nicole Goode put the SUV in reverse and then sped off, hitting an ICE agent which resulted in him discharging his firearm 3 times. But this is just one angle. We'll see the other angle from the ICE agent himself.
Car to the third shot lasted just 7 seconds.
So now quickly, let's just break down what we just saw.
With the video slowed down, you can see one officer grabs the door handle as Goode begins backing up the car. Officer Ross can now be seen filming with his left hand at the front of the car.
She's backing up the car. And more importantly, look where the SUV is directed. But more importantly, look at the front tire.
Car. You can see the front wheel spin forward and Ross draws his gun with his right hand.
So now I want to point you to the front tire and where it's at. The officer's in front of the car and the tire is pointing at the officer. So now if you hit the accelerator, you're going to run right into the officer. And as you can see, the person in the car is hitting the accelerator. That's why the tires are spinning. As you can see, the officer has his gun out. The tires are still pointed directly at the officer and the car is moving forward. Now, at the last second, the tires turn away from the officer, but the officer is struck by the vehicle, which you cannot see from this angle. Now, here's a second angle from the front of the vehicle. So you can clearly see the officer is actually hit by the car.
Well, the slowdown version is showing me that.
Now, as I also stated in my last video, because now we have, now there's a threat. And for those of those retarded fucks who slow to understand, let me break it down to you. Now there's a threat. And what did I say in my last video? Your vehicle is a weapon. Learn the law. Learn the laws. If you use your vehicle and hit someone with the intent to do harm, that is considered assault with a deadly weapon. And let's just say you hit someone with a vehicle and that person dies, then it's not assault with a deadly weapon. It is now upgraded to vehicular homicide. This is what Uncle JD meant when he said that your vehicle is a weapon. Let's continue.
When the SUV pulls forward, they make contact with the agent in the street, and then immediately following that contact, you hear 3 gunshots follow.
So as CNN's expert has shown us, the officer was being struck by the vehicle and returned fire while the vehicle was literally hitting him. Here it is in real time.
In a situation like this, where an officer or a fellow agent gets hit by a fleeting car, they have the right to use deadly lethal force. Again, your vehicle is a weapon.
So next, the officer was recording this incident on his cell phone. So now let's look at the incident from the officer's perspective.
Now we're seeing it from the officer's perspective from his camera phone. Now, fellas, everybody, this is where I'm going to start debunking some of these claims that are being made.
That's okay, we don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, full. You want to command us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
And we come across the first debunk. Remember, the retarded fuck-ass bias media outlets are claiming that when ICE agents approached the vehicle, they both Renee Nicole Goode and her wife, what you see right here, they claimed that when ICE agents approached their vehicle, they claimed that they were in fear of their life. In which Uncle JD says, boy, they are definitely in fear of their life with all that goddamn antagonizing. In fact, I ain't know antagonizing officers and agents is considered being fearful. Get the fuck out of here.
Out the car. Get out of the car. Out of the car. Oh!
Now let's go back on that.
Not so much, big boy. Go ahead. Out the car. Get out of the car. Out of the car.
Now remember what I said earlier. Pay close attention to where the SUV was positioned. Because now you see the SUV went full reverse. And where is that SUV is now positioned? In front of the officer. So she moved the SUV from blocking the street to now facing the officer. But pay close attention to what her wife says in the audio.
Oh! So now,
Let's hear it again.
oh!
Drive, baby, drive. So basically, her wife is telling her to drive, baby, drive. As if she's encouraging her to hit the gas. And as she hit the gas, she hits the officer, in which he returned, he discharged his firearm 3 times, hitting Renee Nicole Goode. So let's continue because Nate the lawyer is going to point out yet another debunk.
So now here, the wife is antagonizing the officer, asking him essentially, what are you going to do?
I should go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead. Out the car.
But the biased media outlets claimed that they were in fear. That don't look like fear to me. That looked like antagonizing.
Now they realize that ICE is about to arrest them for interfering in federal law enforcement activities. And the wife,
as I said,
who's standing outside filming, tries to jump back in the car. So now what you're going to hear a lot in the media is that the officer placed himself in front of the car. But as you can see, that's not accurate because while the officer was standing still, the car actually repositioned itself and pointed the front of the car directly at the officer. Now,
and now we come to our next debunk. Debunk number 2. The officer stood in front of the vehicle. No. She reversed the vehicle and positioned it directly in front of the officer. So that bullshit is debunked as well. Let's continue.
As the officer was trying to move toward the driver's side of the vehicle to get from in front of the car, the person hits the gas, striking the officer. Oh! Now, simultaneously, while being struck by the car, the officer lets off 3 successive shots. Oh! So now that you know the facts, now that you know the law, let's bring everything together so you can decide if this officer is justified or not. If we apply the Graham standards to the case at hand, was a 911 call? Blocking traffic. Pretty light, right? Was the person resisting arrest? Yeah, the officers were opening the car door to arrest her or detain her, and she resisted. She didn't stop the car and get out and talk to the officers. She was actively resisting. And then last, was she a serious threat to the officers or other members of the community? Well, to the officer standing in front of the car, the government's saying she was a serious threat. She hit the officer with the car. Where if you're on the other side of it, you're saying she wasn't a serious threat because she was trying to run away. The argument here is that this woman's case is more like Tennessee v. Gardner. The police essentially shot a fleeing felon. And the government is saying, no, she was a serious threat to that officer, and he responded with deadly physical force. Now, if you're in a...
And again, as I said, your vehicle is a weapon, so it is considered a threat, regardless of what any of these retarded fucks have to say. Let's continue.
Jury, you're going to have to ask yourself, was that officer standing in front of the vehicle, was that a serious threat to that officer? When she hit the gas, car's going forward, and the officer's hit by the vehicle. And remember, the officer's shooting as the car is hitting him, so it's happening all at the same time. Split second. Now, this is where the media spin comes in, because on the left side of the political aisle, they're only showing you one video, this one.
Now, Glenn, that's one angle. There are obviously other...
Yes, that is indeed one angle. So why are they scared to show the other angles, including the footage from the officer? But they just going by one angle. And this is why I always find a trip. They'll take one part of evidence and just run with it, no questions asked. But when more evidence comes out, they are so dumbfounded that they want to still stick with the first one. And fellas, let me tell y'all something. This is the reason why Uncle JD don't just see a news article or a clip and just be quick to run on camera and talk about it. And oftentimes I'll show one news article, then a second news article, and another news article just to back up the one we just seen. Then I make my video once I have everything in order, everything established, and I do thorough research. I don't just see one thing and hurry up and run to the camera. And this is how these retarded folks on YouTube constantly make a fool out their goddamn selves, rushing to conclusions with not all the evidence on the table. And let's just say if I don't have all the evidence on the table, guess what Uncle JD does? Yeah, I will speak on it, but then I'll keep people informed. Letting them know that, listen, I don't have everything on the table. This is what I know so far. I will come back when more evidence is brought to the table. And yes, my supporters will back me up on that. Unlike the rest of these clowns that just take one news article and they run with it, no questions asked. But I digress. Let's continue.
Angles that are floating around the internet right now, but I think all of them generally show roughly the same thing, which is that there is an ICE agent right at the corner of the vehicle, that the person in the vehicle was attempting to turn the wheel so that they could flee the scene, and of course the ICE agent used that as the opportunity to shoot and ultimately kill the person who was in the vehicle.
Now, just to show you how deceptive that was, he knows there are other angles. He knows there are other videos, and he says that none of them are going to make a difference. But obviously, he's totally lying, because I think that...
Yeah, he's definitely full of shit if that's what he believes.
This video makes a big difference in the way you analyze what happened. So now, you know the law, you know the facts, and it's going to be up to people like you to determine if this officer is going to go to jail for murder or some type of homicide charge, or if this was a justified shooting because his life was in danger. Was he being reasonable, or was this criminal? I'll see you in the comment section. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out.
As far as I'm concerned, everything I said still stands. Everything I said in my video addressing the situation with Renee Nicole Goode, all of it still stands. Her SUV was blocking the street. Then she moved her SUV, threw it in reverse, and now had it facing the officer. Now, instead of getting out of the SUV, she chose to hit the gas. You even hear her girlfriend telling her, "Drive, baby, drive, drive." And through another lens, you could clearly see that she hit that officer, in which in return he opened fire. And as I stated before, your vehicle is considered a weapon. That being said, if you use your vehicle to hit someone with the intent to do harm, that's assault with a deadly weapon. And if they die from it, that's vehicular homicide. So by her hitting that officer with the vehicle, he has a right to open fire. Your vehicle is a weapon. And this is not what J.D. Miles says. This is what the law says. Now, let me go ahead and say this shit. It is indeed sad that Renee Nicole Goode lost her life. Yes, it's sad. But by the end of the day, Uncle JD ain't celebrating her death. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Same time, she is not a victim. She should have just, as far as I'm concerned, she should have just gave up, got out the SUV and complied. But no, she didn't comply. Instead, she tried to flee, disregarding the fact that she directed her vehicle right in front of the officer and hit the gas. So as far as I can see, and yes, other people have seen that footage too, and they're all saying the same thing, the shooting was justified. She should have gave up instead of trying to run. And as I stated before, this ain't the first time a situation like this happened. It happened before. Now, do those of y'all remember what happened to another woman who got stopped by police for shoplifting at a grocery store, and when she tried to hit a police officer with her car, they also opened fire on her? Look, see for yourself.
In the Kroger parking lot on Sunbury Road. On August 24th, Blendon Township's police chief, John Belford, says the 21-year-old was one of several people stealing alcohol. When police were alerted, officers say Young was in her vehicle and was asked several times to get out. Police then say Young put the car in gear and drove toward an officer. Chief Belford says Young was given aid on the scene, but later died from her injuries.
Now, to everybody, does that sound familiar? Two different women, same situation. Law enforcement surrounded her car, telling her to get out the car. She She failed to comply, tried to drive off, almost hitting a police officer, and they also opened fire on her. Damn near similar story.
Once again, we are going to show you that video from the police officers from that night, and we are bringing you team coverage of the release of the video. NBC4's Caleb Michael stands by with reaction from Young's family attorney. Eric Halperin brings us new reaction from the Fraternal Order of Police, but we begin with NBC4's Jamie Ostroff. She'll walk us through more of that newly released video. Again, warning you ahead of time that we are about to show you could be disturbing, in case you would like to step away. Jamie?
Yeah, Jen, what we are going to show you is body-worn camera footage from each of the two officers who were involved in that incident last Thursday. Each video is just over 1 minute long as the confrontation with Takaya Young plays out in a matter of seconds. The first officer to interact with Takaya Young approaches her car under the suspicion that she stole liquor from Kroger.
Hey, stop. Hey. Out of the car! Out of the car!
By the time the second officer gets to the car and walks in front of it, the first officer had asked Young to get out 5 times. He keeps asking. Young argues. You can hear the exchange all...
See, same situation. Same situation. You have an officer telling her to get out. You have another one in front of her car. And she is parked. Watch what happens.
Change on that officer's body-worn camera.
Out of the car. Out of the car. They said you stole stuff, do not leave. Get out of the car. Then get out. No, then get out. Get out of the car.
Young begins to drive. In this freeze frame, you can see the car make contact with the officer standing at the front of the car as his feet leave the ground. That is when that officer fires one shot through the windshield. We pause the video to not show that deadly shot. When we pick up the video a moment later, we can hear the commands continue. The car rolls through the parking lot, stopping under the awning by the store. The video ends with officers busting the driver's side window to get Young out of the car.
As I said, this ain't nothing new. This is nothing new. Same situation here. And there are a lot more situations like this as well, where you got people trying to flee from law enforcement in their vehicles, putting police or agents in harm's way in the process. In return, they have to use lethal force. Again, when you use your vehicle to hit someone, it is now considered a weapon. When all they have to do is comply. Compliance, it saves your life. But that's all I got for tonight. Again, shout out to Nate the lawyer. If y'all want to watch this video in its entirety, I'll leave the link to his full video in the comment section. Go check it out. Tell him JD Mouse sent you. But that's all I got to say for tonight. I'm done and I'm out this bitch. Later.